So this right here is the $177 mini gaming PC that I built on a very tight budget. To make it work, I had to make some compromises. For example, the graphics card I picked up actually has a broken fan, and the power supply, well, it's one of those units with very questionable wattage ratings. But surprisingly, none of that really affected the performance that much. For 1080p esports titles, this little machine actually performs pretty well. Most competitive games run smoothly without any major issues. However, once I started testing some AAA games, the limitations became very obvious. The hardware is simply showing its age. And it's not just the performance. The overall look of this build isn't exactly the most attractive either. But what I really want is something a bit more ambitious. I want to be able to play graphically demanding games at 1440p or maybe even 4K if possible. And honestly, as you know, there's really only one way to make that happen. We're going to have to burn some cash and start upgrading this thing. And this time, the budget is bigger than ever. I'm finally at the point where I can pick the parts I want without constantly looking at the price tag. So, to start this upgrade, I'll need to take the entire system apart. Almost everything inside this PC is getting removed. The only things I'm keeping are the PCIe riser cable and the case itself, because at the end of the day, the internal components are what really determine the performance. And the first part that has the biggest impact on gaming performance, especially your frame rate, is the GPU. Right now, this system is equipped with a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050 Ti, which only comes with 4 GB of VRAM. So today I'm upgrading it to a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 with 8 GB of VRAM. I went with a dual fan version, but the card itself is only about 20 centimeters long, which means it should fit perfectly inside this tiny case. At the moment, this GPU costs around $350. And besides being compact, it also comes with a much newer architecture and modern GPU technologies. On top of that, we're getting double the VRAM, which is a huge advantage. Compared to the old 1050Ti, this thing will absolutely leave it in the dust. Performance-wise, it's more than twice as powerful, which makes this a massive upgrade, especially if we want to run more demanding games. Alright, so one major component is taken care of. Next up is another very important part of the build, the ITX motherboard. Now the big question is, AMD or Intel? First of all, I definitely want something newer than Intel 3rd generation, and ideally a platform that allows me to upgrade the CPU later without spending a fortune. But finding something like that in the ITX form factor is actually pretty difficult. So realistically, I had two main options. Option 1 was going with AMD AM4 platform. Option 2 was choosing something like Intel 8th, 9th, or even 10th/11th generation. After doing a lot of research, I found myself leaning more toward the AMD side. The problem is, ITX motherboards from the big brands are usually pretty hard to find and often cost over $150. And at that price, I really had to rethink the plan. Because after upgrading this mini PC, I might end up completely broke. But eventually, I found something interesting. This is the Jinyue B450 OI Mini ITX motherboard, which I picked up for about $100. Jinyue is a brand from China, and while this board is technically new, there's an interesting detail not many people know about. The chipset inside is actually recycled from older, damaged motherboards. But honestly, that's not a huge problem, because the board still comes with a 3-year manufacturer warranty, so I'm pretty comfortable using it. And the biggest advantage of this board is that it supports the AMD AM4 socket, which means I can upgrade to a wide range of Ryzen processors later on without needing to replace the motherboard again. Now that the motherboard is chosen, the next question is, what CPU should we pair with the RTX 5060? Well, in my previous video, I actually picked up a AMD Ryzen 7 5700G for about $165, and honestly, this is a very powerful APU. But in a build like this, I would normally recommend buying a Ryzen CPU without the G suffix to save some money. Because realistically, if you're already using a dedicated graphics card, paying extra for a CPU with an integrated GPU is kind of pointless. No one in their right mind would buy a CPU with an iGPU just to pair it with a powerful graphics card. That's basically wasting money. In my case though, I'm simply reusing the chip I already have instead of buying another CPU. If you want to know more about the detailed specs of this processor, you can check out my previous video, where I go into it in much more detail. Now when it comes to cooling this CPU, I'm just going to stick with the stock cooler that comes with it. AMD stock coolers are actually pretty decent, and while this one is a bit bulky, it should still fit inside the case without sticking out too much. So for this build, the stock cooler will do the job just fine. Next up is the RAM, and honestly this part is pretty easy to choose. Right now, 16 gigabytes is more than enough for most modern games, even the more demanding ones. So I went with two 8 GB sticks to run in dual channel. The kit cost me about $79. Now the next upgrade is actually one of the most important ones. Replacing that cheap power supply with fake wattage ratings. There's no way that thing could safely handle this new setup, so it was time to find something more reliable and preferably fully modular to make cable management easier in this small case. Luckily, I found a FPS MS600 power supply for around $60 and it's rated for 600 watts. You might be wondering why it's so cheap. Well, it's actually used hardware, but the condition still looks really good, almost like new. And honestly, I doubt it has degraded much, so I feel pretty comfortable using it. As for storage, I'm just going to reuse an NVMe SSD that I already have, so I won't need to spend extra money there. So if we add everything up, the total cost of this build comes out to about $754, and honestly, that's a pretty big number for me. But with this kind of hardware, I'm confident it should be able to run pretty much any game I want to play. Before putting everything together though, I wanted to quickly test the components to make sure everything actually works. And thankfully, everything powered on perfectly with no issues at all. Alright, now that we know the parts are working, let's start assembling everything and turn this into a complete gaming PC. And after a few minutes of putting everything together, the upgraded ITX gaming PC is finally complete. And honestly, the look of it is completely different now. The color scheme is much more consistent, everything looks cleaner, and overall it's just way more satisfying to look at. I'm not even sure about the performance yet, but from an aesthetic standpoint alone, I'm already really proud of how it turned out. I'm actually thinking about removing the two side panels completely. It gives the system a much more aggressive look, and it also helps improve airflow so the components inside can stay cooler. Alright, now let's move on to the performance tests. But before jumping into the games, let's quickly check temperatures and noise levels. For the GPU test, I ran the Unigine Heaven benchmark. During the test, the GPU temperature stayed around 72 degrees Celsius, which is totally reasonable and nowhere near overheating. Noise levels are also pretty good, like the system isn't particularly loud, and honestly, you could place this PC in a bedroom without the fan noise becoming annoying. Now let's move on to gaming performance. The first game I tested was Minecraft. With shader-enabled graphics set to fancy and a render distance of 32 chunks, the system performs surprisingly well. While casually walking around the map, the frame rate can reach up to around 170 frames per second. If I fly quickly across the world, the frames per second can drop down to around 70 frames per second, but that's still perfectly playable. Even when I detonated over 1,000 TNT blocks, the system handled it smoothly. When increasing the resolution to 1440p, the frame rate still stays above 100 frames per second, which is honestly impressive. That means we could easily consider pairing this system with a higher resolution monitor. Next up is a game that relies more heavily on the CPU, Fortnite. At 1080p, the frame rate peaks at about 180 frames per second, with an average of around 140 frames per second. And most importantly, the performance is very stable. When increasing the resolution to 1440p, the frame rate drops by about 20 frames per second, but it's still more than comfortable for a casual player like me. Finally, let's test something much heavier, Cyberpunk 2077. With ray tracing enabled and graphics set to high, the system delivers over 200 frames per second at 1080p. And that's a massive improvement compared to the original configuration, where the system could barely reach 30 frames per second at HD resolution. That's honestly a huge jump in performance. Even at 1440p, the frame rate still stays around 150 frames per second, which is incredibly smooth for a game this demanding. After all these upgrades, I'm honestly very happy with the performance this little machine delivers. But, of course, there's always a trade-off. And in this case, that trade-off is the cost. Building a compact ITX system like this can get pretty expensive. So if you're someone who doesn't need to move your PC around very often, I'd actually recommend building a larger desktop system instead. A bigger case usually means better cooling, more upgrade options, and often better performance for the same budget. But for me, I'm really satisfied with how this build turned out. Alright, that's going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.